Finally, the world has learned the basic truth. Revanchist dictatorships like Putin's cannot be brought down from within. They can only be demolished by external forces. This regime has sufficiently revealed itself as an aggressive enclave of fermented Bolshevism, and this cancerous tumor must be surgically excised. This is what the armed forces of Ukraine are doing today, first by entering the territory of the Kursk region. Ukraine's allies are not even going to respond to the cave howl about the sanctity of borders and the cries of the cattle station that, whoever came to us, everyone ended up the same way. The Pentagon noted that they do not consider the Ukrainian armed forces' entry into the Kursk region an escalation. Ukraine is doing what it needs to do to reclaim its sovereign territory and achieve success on the battlefield, said Deputy Spokeswoman Sabrina Singh. The war witches have returned to their native swamps, and intend to rage here until the cave capitulation. The scares about the mighty army of red heroes turned out to be a myth. As it was said, Putin has no one and nothing to fight with, his army is demoralized, the generals are oppressed by the FSB officers and Belousov's auditors, and the stripes stupidly lie to the bald man about the state of affairs, promising to fix everything and free him. Everyone lies to everyone, especially to Putin. This is how they lied to the Führer in March 1945, and when Russian tanks burst into Berlin, there was no one left to tell the truth. But while Mishustin is asking Kursk to stay in touch around the clock, Manchurov is holding meetings, and the invasion has been recognized as a federal emergency. Residents of the Sudzhansky district recorded whining to Putin against the backdrop of the Ukrainian army's advance, whining that they were left with children, without shelter, payments and money. The generous bald man ordered to pay 10,000 rubles each. In the Lipetsk region, 4 settlements are being evacuated after a drone attack on the Lipetsk-2 military airfield. There were several dozen fighter planes, helicopters and warehouses where more than 700 guided bombs were stored. After the Ukrainian drone strike, a powerful explosion with a chain detonation and a large-scale fire occurred across a significant part of the airfield. In addition, 13 tented military Urals and KAMAZs, along with infantry, were destroyed on the highway near the village of Oktyabrsskoye, 8 kilometers from Rylsk. According to data on Friday morning in the Kursk region, the armed forces of Ukraine had already occupied 20 settlements and began digging trenches. The Ukrainian armed forces are moving towards Elgov, the administrative center with a population of almost 20,000 people. People are leaving the city in droves by car, creating long traffic jams on narrow rural highways. Events in the regions bordering Ukraine are a knockdown for the system, which is already looking gloomily in the direction of the leader. If the Ukrainian armed forces occupy the Kursk NPP, it will be a knockout. But the Ukrainian armed forces can launch another series of attacks in Crimea, collapse the bridge and enter the peninsula, and this will be a control shot at Putin. The bunker strategist has not yet taken any clear action. He did not even introduce martial law in the territories of the border regions, not to mention general mobilization. He is afraid to announce it, because he may hear from the population the elementary, "You need it, you fight, but we don't get involved in politics." Go screw a nuclear warhead onto your favorite Iskander and personally launch it in all directions. Everything that the regime has cultivated for decades will fly into his gut, and he may collapse under the weight of the blows. The purpose of the Ukrainian armed forces entering the cave territory is to break the back of the system, make it whine and crawl away from Ukraine. Admit your mistake and strangle the bald idiots by signing the act on the withdrawal of your troops from the occupied territories of Ukraine, extradite the war criminals to The Hague and at least survive in a weakened form, rebooting with some diamonds and Yashins. This is the minimum program. If the system gets stuck, you will have to go to Moscow. But she is unlikely to resist. This system is not monolithic, like the cave of the Soviet hegemons under Stalin. This is not even a society, but a stratified rabble of marginalized people who hate each other. The same big business is already howling at Deripaska's mouth about a monstrous mistake in the form of a war, and wondering how much money should be paid to the offended generals so that they would shoot the scum that has gone to war. At the beginning of August, it was 25 years since Yeltsin appointed an FSB rat as prime minister, only to then hand over his assembly system to a gang of St. Petersburg scumbags who have skillfully retained power for a quarter of a century. Will Putin's brigade be able to hold out when war might knock on the gates of the Kremlin's Spasskaya Tower? So far, propagandists have to explain the failure in the Kursk region by the use of new technologies and unprecedented tactics by the armed forces of Ukraine. Now the Russians, at a minimum, will have to transfer forces to Kursk from the direction of the main attack in the Donetsk region. And the strategy of transferring the war to enemy territory can load the system so much that it ultimately cannot stand it and makes a historic personnel decision, getting rid of the dictator and his entourage for the sake of a reboot.